Okay, get ready because today we are diving deep into the Ottoman Empire.
A world of intrigue and power struggles.
That's right, power struggles you wouldn't believe.
And we're talking about a period you requested.
The Sultanate of Women.
We're going way beyond the typical summaries you find in a textbook.
Oh yeah, forget the textbooks.
We've got first-hand accounts.
Expert analysis.
Even stories from modern historians who have uncovered some pretty juicy details.
Oh, the stories they tell. So we are talking secret alliances.
Jealousy, just the usual.
I get this.
The unexpected influence of women.
In a society.
That we usually think of as, well,
patriarchal.
yeah, patriarchal.
Exactly.
What I think is so captivating about this period is
What is it?
it flips the script on how we usually see the Ottoman Empire.
How so?
Well, the harem,
The harem.
which is often portrayed as just, well,
Yeah, a place of,
right, but it was actually the heart of the Ottoman power structure.
during this time.
Yes. And these women weren't just sitting around looking pretty. They were wielding power,
Really?
influencing the Sultan,
Wow.
shaping the future of the dynasty.
Okay, so let's unpack all of this. I
Yeah.
mean, to really understand how this Sultanate of Women even happened,
Right.
we have to start with the basics.
Absolutely.
So like sultans, the harem, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, the Ottoman Empire was ruled by sultans,
Right.
and the succession was, let's just say,
Complicated.
oh yeah, very complicated.
Okay.
Now, Islamic law allowed for multiple wives,
Mm-hmm.
but there was this very...
Validelerin validesi Safiye Sultanız. Hürrem Sultan. Nurbanu Sultan. Valide Sultan olmalıyım. Kes! Ben Valide Kösem Sultanım. Valide-i Maktule Kösem Sultanım.
Now, think about this.
Okay.
In a system where the Sultan has multiple sons from different mothers,
Oh, boy.
huge potential for conflict,
Uh-huh.
these women were fighting for their sons' futures,
Yeah.
and by extension, for their own survival.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's like, oh my gosh, it's like a real-life Game of Thrones, but in the Ottoman court?
Exactly.
But it wasn't just the mothers fighting for power.
No.
Our sources talk about this disarmist system,
Ah.
and that really blew my mind.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the Ottomans, they recruited young boys, often Christian,
Fervent.
from conquered territories.
Wow.
And they were converted to Islam, educated, and trained for all sorts of roles.
Yeah.
The government and military.
Oh, wow.
This created a really diverse and incredibly loyal elite.
Interesting.
So unlike European societies at the time,
Right.
which were mostly based on hereditary nobility,
Okay.
the Ottomans valued talent and loyalty above all else.
Why, I see.
This system allowed them to draw on a much wider pool of talent.
It's like two sides of the same coin.
What do you mean?
Well, you have the mothers in the harem
Right.
vying for their son's claim to the throne.
Yeah.
And then in the broader empire, you've got the system where anyone, no matter their background,
Uh-huh.
could rise to power. I like that. Two sides of the same coin. Yeah.
Both challenging how we think about power back then.
Absolutely.
And it's in this context
Yes,
that our story really begins.
it does.
Enter Kösem Sultan.
I was just going to say,
She was a total rock star.
she really was.
I mean, she started as an enslaved Christian woman,
Uh-huh.
caught the eye of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent,
Right.
and then,
She became his legal wife.
I mean, unheard of back then.
Completely unheard of. Sultans just didn't marry their concubines.
Wow, so she really shook things up.
Oh, yeah. Her rise to power was a total scandal.
But she was savvy.
Incredibly.
I mean, she gave Suleiman multiple sons,
Securing her position.
and she refused to be sent away.
Like other mothers.
She stayed right in the capital,
In the heart of the power structure.
making alliances and strategic moves.
She was a master strategist.
Let's be honest, she probably used some, well, cunning tactics to get rid of rivals.
Oh, well, there are some pretty strong suggestions,
Oh,
even in historical accounts from that time,
really?
that she was involved in the downfall of Prince Mustafa,
Who was?
Suleiman's eldest son, but from another woman.
Wow, talk about a power move.
This was a major turning point.
Because,
It cleared the path for one of her own sons to inherit the throne.
oh wow, she was playing the long game.
She solidified her position and really set the stage for the Sultanate of Women to take hold.
Okay, so we've got ambition, power plays,
Uh-huh.
maybe even murder?
Potentially.
This is like a historical thriller.
It is.
But wait,
And there's more.
it gets even better.
It does.
Because the sources show
They do.
that Suleiman and Hurrem They had a real relationship.
It wasn't just a strategic alliance.
Right.
There seems to have been genuine affection between them.
Oh, like
We even have love poems written by Suleiman himself.
dedicated to her.
To her, he calls her his Istanbul, his
Wow.
Earth of Anatolia.
That's so romantic.
This wasn't just political maneuvering, it was a love story.
They were like a power couple reshaping the Ottoman Empire together.
Literally.
But was Hurrem's influence just a one-time thing?
That's the question.
Or did she pave the way for other women to, like, gain power in the harem?
Well, that's where things get really interesting and why we call this period the Sultanate of Women.
Because?
Because Hurrem's story set a precedent.
Uh-huh.
And other ambitious women were quick to follow in her footsteps.
I see, like she cracked the code.
Exactly.
Figured out how to have influence.
Within the system.
And other women saw that.
They did. They took notice.
So who are these other women?
Who picked up the torch and ran with it.
I'm all ears.
One of the most notable was Nurbanu Sultan.
Nurbanu Sultan.
She was the mother of Sultan Murad III.
Okay.
And just like Hurrem,
Uh-huh.
super skilled at navigating the palace.
But her strategy was different.
Very different, yeah.
I am intrigued. Tell me more.
Nurbanu, she was all about economic influence. Accumulated vast wealth.
Wow.
And used it strategically.
So imagine this. European visitors to the Ottoman court.
They wrote about her.
Yes.
Her opulent lifestyle.
Lavish spend.
The sheer scale of her influence.
She was a force.
A force to be reckoned with.
So she used her wealth to build power.
Yeah, it's like...
Like she created her own independent power base.
Within the harem.
Exactly.
And she also used a classic tactic.
Which is?
Strategic marriages.
Okay.
Arranged advantageous marriages for her daughters.
I see.
Weaving a web of alliances that extended her influence beyond the harem walls.
Wow, she was playing 3D chess.
While everyone else was still figuring out checkers.
I love it.
It's pretty impressive.
It's amazing these women weren't just relying on like their beauty or the Sultan's favor.
Right.
They were playing the long game.
They were.
Thinking generations ahead.
Absolutely.
Using every tool to secure their position.
That's right.
Amazing. And then...
Then there's Safae Sultan.
Safae Sultan, now she was...
But known as Queen Sophia in Europe.
Oh, wow.
And she ruled for years.
Years.
Survived her own son's reign.
Okay, that's incredible. In a world where power was...
So fleeting.
How did she do it?
Her approach was unconventional.
Oh, so...
She controlled her son, Sultan Mehmed III,
Uh-huh.
not through fear or intimidation,
Okay.
but through extravagance.
Extravagance.
So imagine
Okay.
she kept him surrounded by luxury,
Oh, wow.
constantly entertained, showering him with gifts and pleasures.
It's like...
Risky strategy.
Yeah, keep him distracted with a good life.
While she pulled the strings behind the scenes.
Oh, my gosh, that is amazing.
But it wasn't without its consequences.
Oh, no. What happened?
Well, all that lavish spending, it made her unpopular at certain factions. The Genoese merchants,
Okay.
they saw their profits dwindle
Right.
as she indulged the Sultan's every whim.
It makes you wonder,
It does.
did her strategy weaken the empire?
Right. Did it contribute to...
A decline in good governance?
Exactly. It's a good question.
Yeah. These women were walking a tightrope.
They were.
Powerful enough to protect themselves and their sons, but not so powerful that they,
Alienated or grieved.
or undermine the Sultan's authority.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It was a delicate balance.
And that brings us to perhaps the most enduring figure of the Sultanate of Women.
Oh, yeah.
Kösem Sultan.
Kösem Sultan, her influence spanned decades.
Decades.
And multiple sultans.
Wow.
And she even managed to end the practice of fratricide.
Fratricide.
The killing of brothers.
To
secure the throne.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
It was a bold move.
Sounds like she was really trying to,
stabilize the system.
Yeah.
Which was inherently chaotic.
Right.
And it did have a stabilizing effect.
For a while.
At least for a while, yeah.
Some historians say she did it to protect her own sons.
It's possible.
But regardless...
It was a major shift.
In how the Ottomans ruled.
Yeah, absolutely.
But she didn't stop there.
Oh.
Public works, charitable acts, to gain popular support.
It's like she was building a power base that went beyond the elite.
They're on the court.
Yeah, she understood public image.
She did.
And how to have a following.
Won the people.
A strategy that's,
Still relevant today.
Yeah, so we've got this line of incredible women.
We do.
Each with their own unique way of wielding power.
In the harem.
But what about the men?
Good question.
Were they just letting the women run the show?
Well, our sources show a range of responses
Okay.
from the sultans.
I see.
Some, like Suleiman the Magnificent,
Yeah.
seem to genuinely respect the women in their lives,
Okay.
even deferred to their judgments sometimes.
So it wasn't always a case of, like,
No.
women manipulating the men.
Right.
There were partnerships,
Where power was shared.
even if it wasn't always equal.
Right, but there are also cases
Oh.
where sultans felt threatened the women's influence,
Yeah.
and they actively pushed back.
Okay, so give me an example.
Mehmed III. Remember his mother, Safiya Sultan?
Yeah, the one who kept him distracted.
With all the luxury.
Right, the let him eat cake strategy.
Exactly. Well, he got tired
Yeah.
being sidelined
I see.
and basically staged a rebellion against his mother's control.
Wow, really?
He wanted to rule
On his own?
in his own right.
And he was willing to go
Its
against
own mother.
to do
You
it.
do it so.
It seems like this Sultanate of Women
Yeah.
wasn't some unchallenged reign.
It was.
There was push and pull, right?
Sure was.
Negotiation, even conflict.
Between the women and the men in power.
Yeah, it was like this dynamic,
Mhm.
constantly shifting power struggle.
With no clear winners or losers.
Right.
And then you have Murad V,
Okay.
who came to power after a period of chaos and instability.
Okay.
And he determined to restore order, centralize authority,
Which meant.
curtailing the influence of the harem.
So he was trying to, like,
Put the genie back in the bottle.
reassert male dominance.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
But even he
Wouldn't.
completely escaped the legacy,
Okay.
the Sultanate of Women.
Because.
His own mother, Kösem Sultan,
Right.
she was a major power broker.
Hmm.
Her influence lingered.
Even after?
He came to power,
Like this pendulum.
swinging back and forth,
The power dynamics were.
constantly in flux.
But the Sultanate of Women,
Yeah.
it left a mark.
An indelible mark on the Ottoman Empire.
It really did. Makes you wonder, like, what really happened?
Behind those closed doors
Yeah, we're getting glimpses.
of these power struggles, these alliances.
The betrayals.
So it's like we're only seeing...
The tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely. The harem was
It was like its own little
a
world.
microcosm of Ottoman society.
But with even higher stakes.
Right. And it wasn't just...
The Sultan's wives and mothers.
No.
You had eunuchs,
servants,
advisors, all vying for influence.
whispering in ears, carrying messages.
Maybe even stirring up trouble.
Oh, I bet. A whole ecosystem of power
Everyone trying to survive.
in this very specific environment.
Intense.
Very intense.
You know, one thing that really struck me,
What's that?
how this Sultanate of Women
Uh-huh.
challenges how we usually view the Ottoman Empire.
What do you mean?
Well, we often think of it as this...
Monolithic, static entity.
Yeah, but this period shows us,
A completely different side.
it's like, you know,
The Orientalist view.
right, the exotic, mysterious...
But ultimately backward and oppressive East.
yeah.
This period forces us to confront those stereotypes.
I
The Ottoman Empire was dynamic.
complex
It went through periods of incredible innovation.
and cultural flourishing
This period of strong female influence
is just one example.
of how diverse and adaptable Ottoman society really was.
Like we're seeing
The real people, the real complexities
the real drama.
that was unfolding within this empire.
And it makes you realize
What?
that history is so much more than...
Dates and battles.
It's about people, relationships,
The choices they made.
within the constraints of their time.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
And speaking of choices,
These women were making some bold moves,
negotiating treaties, influencing wars,
shaping the destiny of an empire
think about the impact they had.
on global events.
It's mind-blowing.
We often think of history as,
Dominated by men.
but these women,
They were right there,
in the thick of it, wielding power.
shaping the world
And they did it within a system.
that was designed to limit their power,
They had to be strategic,
resilient,
resourceful.
to achieve what they did,
Their stories are a testament to human agency,
to the power of individuals,
to make a difference.
even when the odds are stacked against them.
It's inspiring.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today.
We have
We've explored the rise of these powerful women,
the harem,
the impact they had on the empire.
the challenges they faced.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
what stands out to you the most?
From all of this,
Yeah, what's the one thing you'll take away?
the sheer audacity of these women.
Audacity.
They were dealt a certain hand in life,
Born into a system that's
sought to confine them.
to a specific role.
And they said, nope, we're not playing by those rules.
I love that.
They bent the system, manipulated it.
Used it to their advantage.
Exactly.
They were rule breakers.
Trailblazers.
And they did it without armies.
Or revolutions.
They did it through whispers, alliances.
A deep understanding of power.
It's a lesson in how power can operate.
In subtle, unseen ways.
And a reminder that history
Is full of these untold stories.
these hidden figures who shaped the world.
In ways we're only beginning to understand.
I like that.
You know, there's one last thought I want to leave our listener with.
Okay.
Something that's not explicitly stated,
In our sources.
but a question worth pondering.
I'm listening.
What about their legacy?
The legacy of these women.
Yeah, I mean, their influence.
It didn't just vanish.
With the decline of the Sultanate of Women?
Right. The Ottoman Empire continued.
For centuries.
And the role of women
Within that society,
continued to evolve.
we often focus on specific periods.
But history.
It's a continuum.
What happened during the Sultanate of Women?
It had ripple effects.
That extended far beyond that era.
Exactly. Did these women inspire future generations?
To seek power and influence.
Did they change social norms?
Expectations.
These are questions that,
Go beyond the scope of our deep dive today.
but they're worth exploring.
You've planted a seed.
And now you're imagining,
How it might have grown.
what impact did these women have?
On ordinary women.
Did their stories become part of?
A shared cultural memory.
Those are questions for another deep dive.
Perhaps.
But for now,
We've reached the end of our journey into the Sultanate of Women.
we've uncovered some fascinating stories.
Challenged some assumptions.
Hopefully sparked some curiosity.
To learn even
And
more.
it's been a pleasure.
Exploring this fascinating period of history.
With you,
And to our listener, remember history is full of surprises.
keep those minds curious.
Who knows what you might discover?